Hi, in this video we are going to explain how to legalize or apostille an Italian birth certificate. But please let me introduce you first to MultiLex. We are a services agency and we help individuals and companies navigate the intricacies of the Italian bureaucracy. First, a tiny introductory note. In this context, when we refer to birth certificate, we are talking about the basic certificate, the most basic one, the shortest form of a certificate attesting to the birth of a person, which is the certificato di nascita. It is a distinct document from, for example, the full copy of the birth record, also known as copia integrale dell'atto di nascita or estratto per copia integrale dell'atto di nascita, which contains the most complete information about the birth of a person, whereas the certificato di nascita only contains the essential information about a birth. So, the Italian birth certificate is an official public document, and as such, it can be subject to legalization or apostille procedures. So, what is an apostille and what is a legalization? Apostille and legalization procedures are procedures that are aimed at authenticating the signature of a public officer on a public document. So they check whether the document is a public document that's been signed by the public officer, and so they authenticate the document. They do not certify the contents of the document. This is very important. So they only authenticate the signature as belonging to a public official acting in official capacity. So, for example, a civil registry officer. So, are these procedures always required? No, there are several exemptions which may apply to specific documents, including the documents we are discussing in this video. And these exemptions are introduced by international agreements or regulation, which apply both to the issuing country and the country receiving the document. So it is essential that you verify each case with regards to the requirements of the birth certificate, because these requirements may vary depending on the type of document and depending on the receiving country. And also actually on the requirements of the foreign entity for the specific document. So legalization is a more complex procedure because it is a multi-step procedure that involves also the consular authorities, for example, the embassies, the consulates of the foreign country destination, which are competent for the issuing country. So they are competent for Italy in this case. Whereas the apostille is a very streamlined legalization procedure, and it only involves one public entity. So the procedure to be applied depends on the type of document and on the country that receives the document. So if the Hague Convention on the Apostille of 1961 applies, then you will need an apostille. If it doesn't, you will need a legalization, so a consular legalization. But please check whether there is an exemption for the specific document and for the specific procedure for that country. So in case you need to legalize or apostille a document like an Italian birth certificate, you need to go to the prefettura, so the prefecture, which is competent for the municipality that issued that birth certificate. So the document may be legalized or apostilled only if it is in paper format. The signature is ink-wet signature, so with a pen, and the document has been stamped. The signature on the document must be registered with the competent authority, so in this case with the prefecture, and the official's name should be in capital letters and complete, because this would allow the prefecture to check the relevant signature. And of course, there might be possible additional requirements, such as specific writings on the document to be legalized or apostilled. So in case you have apostille the document. Then if the document is issued, like in most cases, in a language which is not officially recognized by the authority of the foreign country, you will need to translate the document. The document can be translated in Italy, it could be translated abroad. We always, apart from the UK, where the certified translation is accepted, we always suggest to have the translation done in the destination country by a translation company or translator which is recognized, which is an official translator or translation company in the destination country, so as to avoid any problem and to make things quicker and most cost efficient. Whereas if the document, the birth certificate, requires a legalization, you've got to check with the consular authorities whether there are specific additional requirements for the document to be legalized. You need to check whether there are consular fees. This is a rule. Always you need to pay consular fees for legalization. And you got to check whether the document needs to be translated before submitting it to the consular offices. There are specific regulations, international agreements, which exempt the document from legalization and apostille. For example, the agreement between Italy and Switzerland of November 16, 1966, or the very famous regulation, EU regulation of 2016 1191, which is applicable to all EU member states. In case you need to submit a document, a birth certificate, to another EU member state, then you can ask the municipality to issue also a multilingual standard form of the EU regulation, so introduced by the EU regulation of 2016 1191. And I'm sorry, but not all the municipalities would issue this multilingual standard form, even though they should. And this document would allow you to use the document in another EU country without the need for a translation. Unless this specific rule, unless the destination country, the entity, the public entity of the destination country would state that the multilingual standard form does not contain enough information for them to process the birth certificate. But this is very rare. So in case you have questions, doubts about this specific issue, or you would like to ask for a quotation, please reach out at info@multilex.it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.